The finale of the 7K Mania World Cup of 2026 was upon us as we went through 7 weeks of raw keyboard mashing competition. 3 countries stood at the top of it all: South Korea, Philippines, and Japan, to try and fight for each of the final prizes that were left for grabs. Welcome back to the last recap of the biggest 7K tournament of the year, and we are here to give you a rundown of our last weekend of matches. It boiled down to only 2 matches with some crazy performances here and there, so let's take a look at what went down this time. The weekend started Saturday 13 UTC, sponsored by one of our veteran podium challengers, the Philippines, having been knocked down to face none other than the Japanese forces emerging in the losers finals for the first time in 7K history. Both teams having fought incredibly hard after weeks of competition and a rather fierce semifinals as finals period, as both teams have been training like there was no tomorrow. The rolls commenced and Japan wins the rolls right out the bat with a 65 roll against the Philippines' 32. Japan protected EX1's Sayonara, likely to bank on their opponent with physicality on a faster break croissant, whereas the Philippines protected L4 Hemisphere due to the brutal nature of the inverses catch of the Japanese. From that note on, however, Rai-6 Tokyo Ryosen and L1 Moteke Sailor Fuku get the bans. Japan began with none other than Rai-3 Cortex Charger, given its physical nature when it comes to even faster, dense cold streams, clocking it at 270 BPM. It got hectic in the middle with misses left and right until the Philippines ultimately reigned victorious over this pick with a breakpoint, then followed by an objective victory on LN2 down for you. Japan, however, would begin to respond more vigorously as they picked into Rai-7 Primordial Complex, our OS original for this round. This was where the real meat of the match began, as the Philippines got a safe lead of about 20,000 score for the initial quarter of the map, as if they were used to these real physical tech patterns as opposed to Japan, do what they can, but finding many misses along the road. Boji would find repeated misses until the scoreline reaches close to the middle, then Japan would take the lead back going into the latter half of the map and take it upon themselves to win the point where it mattered most. Only 5,000 points to spare for the Japanese. Philippines followed this pick with none other than LN3 over the top, another expected route as it was within Philippines' comfort against Japan, while the scoreline was grounded for a good majority of the map until the second half of repeat mistrades. Hoji-san and Suzuha were chilling on top of the board while it was an all-out war between Butanic and Sonny at the bottom, missing everywhere as no clear advantages were seen until the Philippines won in a last-ditch effort from the final few blows coming out from Butanic. The Philippines is now up by about 3 points, which was why Japan picked into Rai-5, not Sakura, so they needed a safe point for themselves. Almost 80,000 points go to Japan for that pick in particular. As for the next pick, Philippines goes into L5 Psycho Boost to try and continue their streak of picks won. This map ended up becoming super difficult for both teams, being the technical monster it is in Noodles. The Philippines in with the advantage for the good majority of the map until we got to the latter portions of the map, where fatigue gives out from the Filipino side and Japan took a surprise breakpoint off of this map. Then comes the second ban wave. This time, the Philippines win this with a 92 roll, whilst Japan rolled 79, leading for the likes of Rise for graduation from the world, and then Hybrid 3 Omega Protocol to be banned on site. Both teams' protects of EX1 Sayonara and LN4 Hemisphere were subsequently thrown out into the limelight, and boy did this result in a heartbreak for Japan.
To gain a little bit of a lead because of that accuracy, but no one with a high combo. Boji gonna be the first one at 400 as Suzuha finds a drop and gives the lead to the Philippines, but this is so close right now. Butanic gonna drop as well as the combo advantage stays in the favor of the Philippines going into the final few patterns. And a breakpoint back to back to give Philippines back their advantage. And it looks like they might just be able to. Double miss from Japan, only trained by Sandy OG-san, holding up the combo. This ending might just carry Philippines to the victory on it. What are we doing?
Oh my God. 15,000!
What are we doing?
What?
Three! What?
What? The Philippines dealt the Japanese their sweet taste of revenge as they were only 2 points away from facing South Korea for the podium's higher end, in which, as it turns out, Hybrids and EX picks were free real estate for them. We see Hybrid 2 Saite picked as everyone goes into a very difficult fast hybrid we had to watch, featuring a ton of crazy double patterns thrown everywhere on the board. They won that by about 14,000 score, and the Philippines knew that they had to exhaust the Japanese once and for all, with none other than EX2 Fake. where the patterns proved to be too much for Japan to handle as the Philippines repeat history with what happened on Rice 5 earlier, ultimately making it further into the grand finals with 70,000 scores to sit Japan down at the bronze placement, 7-3 in their benefit. This match was one that sure turned a lot of heads with how both teams took opportunities to come and swing it while they could. While Japan finishes in their first ever podium spot in any 7-key World Cup after so many times, just barely even being able to breach the 6th to 4th place curse that came for so many other iterations. This year allowing them to shine the best that they have in any iteration yet. I give a massive congratulations to Japan for being one of our freshest finalists this year, while for the Philippines, they have quite the elephant to address. And that elephant in question, everybody knows who it is, the one waiting at the very top. It is none other than our champion seeded, South Korea. Back again for blood as they enter the ring. They have been a rival of the Philippines, with this match proving more to that trope. The team started off straight with the rolls, with South Korea rolling, I ain't reading that number, while Philippines rolled a 49. Unfortunately, the Filipino team going unlucky at the start once again. South Korea opted to protect EX3 Finoza to try and exploit Philippines' endgame power, while Rice for graduation from the world also gets protected, contrary to Philippines' previous decisions. Afterwards, Rice 6 took Yorosen, and Rice 3 Cold 6 Charger got the Banhammers in reverse order. South Korea kickstarts the first round with a pick of Hybrid 1 Discoloration, trying to pick into more obscured options against the Philippines as there was no information given prior to this scenario. South Korea held on for a good portion of the map at first, facing off the mistakes from Boji until Han Jae-hoon missed on some trickier noodle sweeps on the playfield. Kalkai also missed soon after as the lead was stuck in the middle until enough mistakes brought it into the favor of the Philippines going until the end. A breakpoint of 15,000 to really wake everyone up for this match. Riding off some adrenaline, the Philippines took upon picking Rice to Kazusa as it was the closest to Cortex Charger as they could afford. Albeit it proved too tough for them as it was the same situation as earlier. An intrusive miss comes from Boji as the South Korea managed to hold on until the end, deliberately treating the situation like they're just simply playing a Nikosek chart before going straight for Hybrid 2 Saitei, taking Philippines down memory lane as they took it out by 34,000 score. The Philippines continue to fight back as they took out their protective Rice 4 and utilized it to a great standard as they would take it by 16,000 points and keep themselves in the equation. It did not last for so long, however, as South Korea would then become enraged to take 2 points afterwards by solid gaps, the verdicts being LN1 and LN3. Following on, South Korea won the rolls again with a hard-to-beat 95 over 56 from the Philippines, this time with Rise 5 Not Sakura and EX1 Sayonara getting banned as South Korea picked it to LN5 Psychopaths, once again looking to exhaust the Filipino team as they have been doing so far. It ended close for a good portion of the map once more until everyone began missing, and finally the Philippines gave in as South Korea take this by 12,000 points. The Philippines are in danger as the need to try and climb back on the point department expanded after the road got closed down by the Korean security. So picking it to LN2 down for you, both YZ and Han Jae-hoon went down as this is a point that manages to go well for the Filipino side, although the options run dry as South Korea wins Volan Fantasia, bringing it to the tournament point. The final pick taken by the Philippines was spent on the same map that closed the very match between them and Japan, EX2 Fake, the same gauntlet that took down the Japanese forces as they had many points left to win against South Korea. Surprisingly enough though, they had a really solid chance on this pick as well, going into the earlier stages up until the first course of the map where we see misses fly from various players on the board. Unfortunately, Sunny looking the most unstable going into the back of the chart with so many misses, but the map is difficult to an extent where even both YZ and Han Jae-hoon suffer with the map's focus on heavy visual expression. It was heart and mouth in the final stretch of the chart as the Philippines had it by 5,000 score until the very end game, and the instability came at the worst place for them. South Korea sat down the Philippines once again by a small margin, winning first prize in the 7-key Osumania World Cup for 2026 and continuing their streak on from 2024 and 2025 to win at the top. For this being the grand finale of the 7-key World Cup this year, it is clear that the Philippines is a force that looks to push the boundary of competition each year, especially of how they were the one country And I mean, the one only country that managed to scratch the strongest we've seen South Korea become, and how this was the most active iteration of the 7-key World Cups in ages. Having taken down the South Korean team in 2023, the window of opportunity to try and fight for the crown once more remains open for the coming years, while our champions, Dresser, YZ, Kalkai, and Han Jae-hyun all raise their glasses for yet another year. Congratulations to both teams for reaching such a high position in the tournament's podium. And that will conclude it for our Grand Finals recap, as well as the 2026 edition of the 7-key Osumania World Cup. Your victors for this version will be your first time bronze place Japan, second place challenger Philippines, and the champion South Korea once again. There has been a ton of brutal competition from many aspiring countries for the biggest iteration we have had of this tournament since 2016. So I would like to give out my most heartfelt of shoutouts to all of the players this iteration for making this the most exciting year of the 7-key Osumania World Cup yet. And the entire staff team for making everything in this tournament possible. That's more than 200 people that partook in making this iteration bang. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to all that have helped contribute to the Newspost we have had this iteration to highlight the awesomeness that we have been witnessing. Being none other than SurfChu85, SunApple, Walavauchi, Yukina Meng, RandomALol, and Normaplier for helping within the scripts, voiceovers, and the editing processes. And most of all, thank you so much for tuning in for each of the recaps we have had this iteration for the 7-key World Cup as we have gone through. So I'm hoping we can all do this once again for 2027 and make that an even more spectacular year for the 7-key World Cups, both in production and the competition we have been seeing. As for now, we hope you enjoyed this year's World Cup, and we hope to catch you all once more in the next year. Thank you all for everything, and take care.